There comes a time in life when everything feels disconnected. Your goals, your relationships, even your identity. You go through the motions, smile when needed, say you're fine when you're not, and quietly wonder what's wrong with me. But the truth is, feeling lost isn't a flaw, it's a signal. It means something deep inside you has gone unheard for too long. Most people try to fix this feeling with surface-level solutions, changing jobs, chasing love, moving cities, but those never work, because the real reason you feel lost isn't outside, it's within. You've been trying to live someone else's life, ignoring your inner compass. To truly find yourself, you must go back to the parts of you that you abandoned. You must stop running, pause and listen. The path back to yourself isn't complicated, but it does require courage. Here's how to begin. From the time we're young, we're subtly trained to prioritize approval over authenticity. We're told what success looks like, what behaviors are right, what paths are safe. Slowly we begin to trade in pieces of ourselves to fit molds we never chose. We pick careers that make our parents proud, suppress emotions to avoid being too sensitive, and stay in relationships because they look good from the outside. Each choice that doesn't come from your inner truth chips away at who you really are, and over time that quiet voice inside, the one that knows what you love, what excites you, what your soul needs, grows silent. What's left is a life that might seem fine on paper but feels painfully empty. That's why you feel lost. You're not where you belong. You're playing a role in a story you didn't write. Most people don't even realize they're doing this. They confuse routine with purpose. They think having a job, relationship, or social life means they're on track. But being busy isn't the same as being fulfilled, and success, when it's defined by someone else, never feels like victory. It feels like prison. You go through life wondering why something always feels off, why there's this subtle ache that never goes away. That ache is your real self trying to break through the performance. It's not depression or laziness, it's your soul's resistance to a life that doesn't align with who you truly are. You might ask, how did I end up here? It usually starts with small compromises. Maybe you loved writing or painting, but were told it's not practical. Maybe you were naturally emotional or introspective, but were labeled dramatic. So you buried that part. Maybe you dreamed of a slower, simpler life, but you chased the hustle because it's what everyone else was doing. Each compromise seems harmless at first, but string them together over years and they become a full-blown identity crisis. You wake up one day not knowing who you are because you've never had the space to truly be yourself. Living a life that's not yours also creates chronic anxiety. You always feel like you're behind, like you need to catch up, but you're not even sure to what. That's because you're running on someone else's timeline, trying to meet standards that were never meant for you. And deep down, part of you knows this. That's why no accomplishment feels satisfying. You get the promotion but still feel empty. You enter the relationship but still feel alone. Because your spirit wasn't involved in those choices. They were made by your ego, your conditioning, your fear. So what's the way out? You must begin to strip away everything that isn't truly yours. That doesn't mean you need to quit your job tomorrow, or end every relationship. But it does mean you need to pause and ask some uncomfortable questions. Whose values am I living by? Whose dreams am I chasing? Who told me I had to be this person? And when you get honest, you'll probably find that many of your current life structures were built out of fear, guilt, or the desire to be accepted. None of those are sustainable foundations. The key is to start reconnecting with your own voice. What excites you, even if no one approves of it? What gives you peace, even if it doesn't earn applause? What did you love before the world told you what to love? The process of reclaiming your life requires peeling back all the shoulds and getting to the truth underneath. You must learn to disappoint others before you betray yourself. You must be willing to look selfish in order to be soulful. And you must understand, authenticity often comes with discomfort, because it threatens the illusion you've built. But here's the good news. Every step you take toward your true self gives you back a piece of your energy. You begin to feel lighter, clearer, more alive. Your decisions stop feeling like guesses and start feeling like alignment. Even when life is hard, it no longer feels meaningless because at least now it's your life. And there's a power in that kind of ownership that no external success can replicate. So if you feel lost right now, don't panic. It's not the end of the world, it's the beginning of your return. Your lostness is not a flaw, it's a message. It's your inner self saying you've gone too far in the wrong direction, come home. All you need to do is listen. The truth is you've always known who you are. You just forgot while trying to be what the world wanted. But the path back to yourself is still there, waiting for you to take the first step. There was a time when you knew exactly what you felt, what you needed, and what mattered to you. That inner voice, subtle but powerful, guided your choices. It told you when something didn't feel right. It sparked your curiosity, inspired your creativity, and whispered your deepest truths. But somewhere along the line you stopped listening. You started looking outward for answers. You began asking the world, who should I be, instead of asking yourself, who am I really? And that's when the disconnection began. It usually starts with innocent intentions. You want to be liked, respected, accepted. So you smile when you're not okay. You agree when you want to say no. You stay quiet when your soul is screaming. You begin making decisions not based on your values but on the expectations of others, your parents, your culture, your friends, your social media followers. Slowly, your life becomes a performance, your words become a script, and your emotions become rehearsed. That inner voice, it's still there, but now it's drowned out by noise, drowned out by fear, drowned out by the desire to be enough for a world that's never satisfied. And this abandonment doesn't just affect your decisions, it affects your identity. You begin to forget what you love, you forget what excites you, you forget how to trust your instincts, you become a reflection of what others want, not a reflection of your truth. You feel disconnected from yourself because you're no longer rooted in your own being, and that's one of the deepest forms of pain, being alive, but not living as yourself. When people say they feel lost, this is often the real reason they've replaced their own compass with someone else's map. This disconnection also creates emotional chaos. You feel anxious, but you can't explain why. You feel stuck, but there's no clear obstacle. You feel like something's wrong, but everything looks fine. That's because your external life and internal truth are out of sync. You're climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. You're chasing approval instead of fulfillment, and that misalignment eats away at your peace. You wake up every day with a subtle ache, a quiet emptiness, and the worst part is you can't even explain it to anyone because it all looks okay from the outside. When you live to please others, you start editing yourself. You hide your pain, dim your light, mute your opinions. You become so afraid of rejection that you'd rather be invisible than be authentic. But the cost of this is massive, because every time you silence your inner voice, you reinforce the belief that your truth is not valid, and the more you do that, the harder it becomes to hear yourself again. That's why so many people feel like they've lost themselves. It's not that you disappeared, it's that you've buried your truth under years of pretending. Reclaiming your inner voice starts with honesty. Brutal, liberating honesty. You must ask yourself, where am I living a lie? Where am I pretending? Who am I trying to impress? And most importantly, what would I do if I didn't care what anyone else thought? These questions are uncomfortable because they threaten the image you've built, but they're necessary if you want to feel whole again. You cannot heal while hiding. You cannot be free while pretending. You also need to practice listening again, not to the noise outside, but to the stillness inside. That voice you abandoned, it's still there, waiting. It speaks in gut feelings, in quiet urges, in subtle resistance. It's the part of you that feels heavy around the wrong people and light around the right ones. It's the knowing that certain paths drain you, no matter how successful they look. Reconnecting with that voice isn't about magic, it's about presence. You must be willing to pause, reflect and feel. You must give yourself permission to be seen, not as perfect but as real. There will be resistance. Some people won't like the real you. They'll question your change. They'll guilt you for choosing yourself. That's okay. Healing isn't about pleasing others. It's about coming back to yourself. And the truth is, the people who truly love you will celebrate your authenticity, not demand your conformity. The world doesn't need more people who fit in. It needs more people who are real. So if you feel lost, start here. Stop asking the world who you should be, and start asking your soul who you already are. Peel back the layers of performance. Release the need to impress. Honor your feelings. Trust your instincts. And above all, speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. The world may not always reward it, but your soul will. And in that alignment, you'll no longer feel lost because you'll finally be walking your path, not someone else's. One of the deepest reasons people feel lost is because they've never learned how to be alone, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Being alone with yourself means facing the silence without distraction. It means sitting with your thoughts without reaching for your phone, facing your emotions without numbing them, and listening to the voice within that you've been avoiding for years. Most people aren't really afraid of loneliness. They're afraid of meeting the person who lives behind the mask. They're afraid of who they've become when nobody's watching. In the modern world, we are addicted to noise. We stay busy, connected, entertained. We keep the music on, the conversations flowing, the screens glowing, anything to avoid the stillness. Because in the stillness, truth rises. And that truth is often uncomfortable. It shows you the parts of yourself you've buried. The guilt, the shame, the regret, the anger, the unfulfilled dreams. It brings up the questions you've been running from. Who am I really? What do I truly want? Am I happy in this life I've built? Most people would rather drown in distraction than answer those questions honestly. But until you make peace with solitude, you will always feel disconnected from your essence. You'll keep chasing relationships to avoid abandonment, success to avoid insecurity, noise to avoid meaninglessness, and the more you avoid yourself, the more lost you feel because the map to your healing, your direction and your power has always been inside you. It's just been buried under layers of avoidance. Being alone with yourself is not loneliness, it's self-intimacy. It's learning how to become your own anchor. It's becoming comfortable in your own company. It's about facing the thoughts that scare you and realizing they don't have power over you unless you run from them. Every time you sit in stillness and breathe through the discomfort, you reclaim a part of yourself. You start to recognize the patterns you're stuck in, the wounds you're still carrying, the stories you keep repeating, and that awareness is the beginning of transformation. But if you're afraid to be alone, you'll never truly know who you are. You'll shape-shift to match the expectations of others. You'll mold your identity around approval. You'll silence your needs, your dreams, your values just to fit into the world around you. And at some point, you'll wake up surrounded by people, achievements or noise, and still feel completely empty. That emptiness isn't because something is missing externally. It's because you've lost your connection with yourself. True healing begins when you can sit with yourself without needing to escape. When you can close the door, sit in silence, and feel your emotions without judgment. When you can observe your mind without being consumed by it. When you can hear the fears, the doubts, the self-criticism, and still choose compassion over shame. This kind of solitude builds inner strength. It creates a relationship of trust between you and your inner world. You stop depending on others to fill your emptiness because you've learned how to meet your own soul. Many people think healing is about fixing what's broken, but sometimes healing is just about stopping the escape. It's about creating space to hear what your pain has been trying to tell you for years. It's about learning to stay present in your body, even when it's uncomfortable. The truth is, you can't heal what you're too afraid to feel, and you can't feel what you're always running from. Stillness is not weakness. It's the most courageous thing you can do in a world that profits from your distraction. So the next time you feel lost, instead of running to someone or something, try sitting with yourself. Close your eyes. Take a breath. Feel what's really there beneath the surface. Let the silence speak. Let the truth rise. It might be painful. It might be confusing, but it will always lead you back to yourself. And in that return, you'll find something more powerful than comfort. You'll find clarity. When you're no longer afraid to be alone with yourself, you become free. Free from approval. Free from external validation. Free from the exhausting chase for meaning outside of you. You begin to live from your center. You make decisions that are aligned with your truth. You set boundaries without guilt. You follow your intuition without explanation. That's what it means to be rooted in self-awareness. Not to become perfect, but to become present. Being alone with yourself isn't about isolation. It's about connection. The most important connection you'll ever have. Because every relationship you enter, every choice you make, every path you walk, will either reflect your inner truth or your inner fear. And unless you know who you are when everything is stripped away, you'll always live at the mercy of the world around you. So ask yourself, what part of you are you afraid to meet in the silence? What truth are you avoiding by staying busy, entertained, or distracted? And most importantly, who might you become if you finally had the courage to stop running and start listening? You can't find your true self while holding on to a false identity. The real reason so many people feel lost is because they are living lives that were never truly theirs. From a young age, we are conditioned to become what others expect. Pleasers, achievers, caretakers, performers. We wear masks to fit in, to be loved, to survive. Over time, those masks become so convincing that even we start believing in them. But deep inside, there's a quiet ache, a sense that something essential has been abandoned. That something is your authentic self, buried beneath years of pretending. The false self is built on fear, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of failure. It's the version of you shaped by the world's opinions and expectations. It's the identity you crafted to be accepted, praised, or protected. You told yourself who to be based on who they wanted you to be. Maybe you became the strong one who never cries, or the responsible one who always sacrifices, or the successful one who hides their emptiness behind achievements. But at some point, that role begins to suffocate you. It becomes too heavy to carry. That's when the feeling of being lost starts to creep in. Not because you don't have an identity, but because you're living someone else's version of you. The truth is, real clarity doesn't come from adding more. It comes from shedding what's false. Finding yourself is a process of unlearning, unbecoming, and unraveling. You don't discover your true self by trying harder. You discover it by letting go. Letting go of the lies you told yourself to be accepted. Letting go of the dreams that weren't really yours. Letting go of the roles you performed to feel worthy. Every layer you peel away brings you closer to who you truly are underneath. But this process isn't comfortable. It can feel like a death because in a way it is. The false self must die for the true self to emerge. You'll grieve the image you once clung to. You'll feel fear, confusion, even guilt for walking away from what no longer fits. But the discomfort is necessary. It means you're waking up. You're no longer willing to betray yourself for approval. You're no longer willing to silence your truth to avoid conflict. You're choosing alignment over attachment. People around you may not understand this shift. They might question your choices, accuse you of changing, or pull you back toward your old patterns. That's okay. Their confusion doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're growing. The path of self-discovery is often lonely at first because few people are brave enough to walk it, but it leads to the deepest freedom, the freedom to be fully, unapologetically you. To lose the false you must first become radically honest. Ask yourself, what parts of me are real and what parts are performance? What do I believe because I've experienced it? And what do I believe because I was told to? What do I truly want, and what have I been chasing just to feel enough? Start listening to the quiet voice within, the one that existed before the world told you who to be. That voice is your compass. It won't scream, it won't beg for attention, but it will guide you if you're willing to slow down and listen. It speaks through your intuition, your values, your deep desires. The more you honor it, the louder it becomes. Finding yourself also means reconnecting with your body, your emotions, your creativity. These are the places your true self lives, not in your job title, your social status, or your follower count. When you create space for stillness, for self-reflection, for honest feeling, you begin to remember. You remember what makes you come alive. You remember what you were passionate about before life got heavy. You remember the version of you that didn't need to perform to feel lovable. The journey back to yourself is not a straight line. It's a spiral. You'll circle back to old patterns. You'll get lost again. But each time, you'll return with more awareness, more strength, more clarity. Don't shame yourself for the detours. They're part of the process. What matters is that you keep choosing truth over and over again. And as you lose the false layers, something powerful happens. You stop needing the world's permission to be yourself. You stop asking, "Am I enough?" and start living from the knowing that you already are. You begin to attract relationships, opportunities, and experiences that resonate with your core, not your mask. Life begins to feel aligned, not forced, and the feeling of being lost fades, not because everything outside of you changed, but because you came home to yourself. So if you feel lost, don't panic. Don't rush to fix it or escape it. Sit with it. Ask it what it's trying to reveal. Often, feeling lost is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something false is falling away. Let it fall. Let yourself shed the skin that no longer fits. Let yourself become unfamiliar for a while, because on the other side of that discomfort is a version of you that's real, grounded, and whole. You don't have to find yourself by becoming someone new. You have to remember who you were before the world convinced you to forget. And that remembering begins when you stop clinging to the false self and start living from the truth.